Please all say.
I was not live. Thank you so much. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for our being. We thank you for allowing us to live in a democracy and in a precious, wonderful place like Conway, South Carolina. Thank you for letting us be a part of the decision-making for this community. Help us to guard our biases, our prejudices, even our personal preferences as we make decisions that are good for the entire community. These things we ask in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We are at item 3, which is the consent agenda or approval thereof. Is there a motion? Mr. White.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second? Sounds.
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. And now for the actual agenda. Is there a motion? What I'm not seeing is the actual agenda.
The actual agenda does not need to be approved as part of the meeting. It's approved because it's published.
Well, I've never heard that before. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. We will only approve the consent agenda. In that case, we're now at item 4, which is public input. This is an opportunity for anyone who would like to speak to this body on just about any subject. The exception, of course, would be that it has to do with an individual employee. We'd like to have those conversations in a more private venue. Public input allows 5 minutes for you to bring a message. There are monitors everywhere to help you keep up with your time. And as you close out, if you're in the middle of a sentence, when the bell tolls 5, I'll give you a few seconds to finish that sentence. Last thing I need to mention about public input is that it is not interactive. There won't be back and forth between the council and you or the staff and you, but please know, rest assured that we're paying very much close attention to your concerns, or your compliments for that matter. Is there anyone present who'd like to speak under public input? Reverend Mrs. Cheryl Adamson, if you would please. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I didn't come with the intent to speak, but I don't want to miss an opportunity to say that Juneteenth was a wonderful experience for our community, and we are looking forward to the planning for next year. That was our first attempt at a collaboration between the City of Conway Department of Parks and Recreation, the Smith-Jones Commission, and the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society. We were very pleased with the way the city worked with us, and we're looking forward to building on that. We had a movie called Miss Juneteenth on Friday night. That was just a very cute and informative movie. I think it was in the Sundance Film Festival in 2020. And then the next day we had vendors and booths with education. We have a professor from Coastal Carolina University who is working with the Whittemore Race Path Historical Society as a consultant, He formerly worked at the University of South Carolina at the Institute for Civil Rights and Race. And he was able to go to Columbia and bring a whole van load of educational material for the community. It was almost like a mini museum. And his contribution was very effective and very well received. We had Reverend Dr. Hank Singleton, who is a native of Conway, and the person that I was speaking of before is Dr. Franklin Goss. He's a native of Loris, South Carolina, who has come back to work as the director of the Call Me Mr. program at Coastal Carolina University. So then Reverend Dr. Hank Singleton, who teaches at the University of South Carolina in religion and in African American history, was our keynote speaker. I believe that he was introduced by the mayor, and we were very impressed with the information that he shared with the community. He is impressed by what the city of Conway has done, and he would like to come again. He believes that this can be a very singular and signature event for the city of Conway, and is willing to work with us on expanding what we're able to do with that. Our thoughts are to reach out to some other municipalities that are west of the waterway, like Bucksport and Aner and Loris, to make a more inclusive, collaborative event. So all in all, we were very happy with the way things turned out and look forward to the coming months so that we get a head start. By this being a new holiday, there are some persons and vendors and presenters that go very quickly in the process of planning. So we need to get out ahead of some other communities to get the best quality for our young people. And I especially love the fact that we had opportunities for the children to learn about Juneteenth. The city ordered coloring books for Juneteenth, and they had a gift packet for them that the children will be able to play with for a while. So thank you very much for that collaboration. We are looking forward to more collaborations so that our community catches up with what is going on around the state and around the Southeast in the celebration of Juneteenth. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Adamson. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Goldfinch,
Mayor, I move we close public input.
Mr. White.
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to close public input at this time. All in favor, please indicate your pleasure with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. And thank you so much. We'll now have a special presentation. First is the presentation of Employee for the Month, and this person is with Public Safety. Chief Long.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. On March the 8th, 2024, an active fire was detected at Conway Middle School. Public safety from around the area began responding to the scene. School was in session. There was approximately 600 students and dozens of staff and teachers that were also present. School Resource Officer Rusty Crocker was on duty and in the school, and he was quickly joined by Detective Sergeant Heath Watford. The two of them made their way to the source and origin of the fire. They quickly closed off interior fire doors, isolated the area of the fire, and began directing incoming resources to the epicenter of the incident. Their quick action served to lower oxygen content in the area, caused the fire intensity to lessen. This action likely saved extensive damage to the school, the possibility of an uncontrolled fire, and a much greater potential for students and staff to be exposed to fire and smoke. They stayed to assist Conway Fire and Rescue as they started to respond to direct them to the exact scene until they were relieved by other fire and rescue response from other agencies that came in to assist. School Resource Officer Rusty Crocker and Detective Sergeant Heath Watford advanced towards the fire location. through the growing smoke in the building, and their actions and response quickly aided in controlling the active fire location and preserving life and property. And for that, they are public safety employees of the month.
Congratulations, and thank you for acting so appropriately and so quickly. God bless you. If we ever need furniture movers, I'm not sure if it was Jean herself or the people on the second row, but I've never seen that pew move like it did just seconds ago. I mean, just for information, you may need to know that one day. Item 4, first reading. A is first reading of ordinance ZA 2024-0715A to annex approximately 2,407 acre of property located at 2671 Oak Street and request a rezone from Horry County Residential District, no mobile homes allowed, to City of Conway low to medium density residential district. Ms. Hutz.
Yes, this annexation was submitted as a requirement to connect to city utilities. Restrictive covenants were also filed with the annexation petition. 5 other lots on this stretch and side of Oak Street have been annexed into the city. Either side of this lot is still in the county's jurisdiction. However, across Oak Street is property that was annexed a few years ago and zoned neighborhood commercial. There is an existing brick single-family home on the property. The zoning classification that would be assigned to the property upon annexation is R1, or low to medium density residential, and the city's future land use map also identifies the property as low to medium density residential. And staff recommends approval of the request, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Hutz. Are there questions or comments? I'll move, go ahead, Mr. White.
Mayor, I move that we approve of this ordinance, please.
And I'll second Mr. White's motion. Again, are there any questions? There being none, we'll call a vote. All in favor, please indicate so with the showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item B is first reading of ordinance ZA 2024-017B to annex approximately 11 and 2200 acres of property located on Highway 501 past the intersection of Wild Wing Boulevard and Highway 501 and rezone from Horry County Highway Commercial District to the City of Conway Highway Commercial District. Ms. Huggs.
Yes, this property is located a little past the intersection of Wild Wing Boulevard on the left-hand side of Highway 501 heading toward the beach. Last year, the adjacent property was annexed into the city as highway commercial for development of 2 fast food chains. Properties on either side are already in the city limits, essentially making this property a donut hole and requiring annexation in order to connect to city utilities at the time any development is proposed. The property is currently zoned Horry County Highway Commercial. The city's future land use map identifies the property as highway commercial. Planning Commission held the required public hearing at their June 6th meeting and recommended approval, as does staff recommend approval of the request.
Thank you so much, Ms. Huggs. This time I'll move that we approve first reading of this ordinance. Is there a second? Mr. Goldfinch.
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve this first reading. Are there questions or comments? There being none, we'll call a vote. All in favor, please indicate so with the showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item C, first reading of ordinance ZA 2024-0715C to rezone approximately 3 and 3/3100 acres of property located at 695 Century Circle from the City of Conway Planned Development District to the City of Conway Light Industrial District. Ms. Hutz.
This property on Century Circle is inside Atlantic Center Industrial Park. A majority of the properties that are within the Atlantic Center are in the county's jurisdiction, and they're zoned planned unit development, which is the older version of a planned development district. It was annexed into the city originally in 2006 as a PD. The property was not proposed to be developed until 2022, when the property owner inquired about whether a heavy equipment sales and service center could be permitted on the property. They were informed that the use was not permitted based on a list of prohibited uses within the PD ordinance for the property. which mirrors the protective covenants for the Atlantic Center. At some point in the summer of 2022, a determination was made that the proposed use could be permitted with approval from the Property Owners Association. Subsequently, the owner provided a letter from the Property Owners Association approving the use with conditions that were later satisfied, giving the property owner approval to move forward. A few months ago, when a certificate of occupancy for the building was requested, current staff realized that the PD for the property did not permit the use that was constructed on the site. And even with the approval of the Property Owners Association, the permitted or prohibited uses per the PD district ordinance is still applicable and dictates the specific uses permitted for the property under the city's code. The CO was granted, however, the use as it sits now, even though recently constructed, is considered legal nonconforming, which prohibits any expansion outside of the current building footprint. And if for any reason the use were to be vacated, it could not be reestablished after 180 days. And aside from that, a planned development district is required to consist of a mixture of uses, including different residential dwelling types, densities, and commercial uses. A single-use planned development does not meet the intent of a planned development district. Rezoning the property from a planned development to light industrial would be consistent with other properties in the Atlantic Center that are in the city limits, and it would remove the non-conforming status. And further, it would remove the property from the planned development district designation that does not comply with the city ordinance for planned developments. It would still be subject to the protective covenants for the Atlantic Center, and Planning Commission held their required public hearing on the request on June 6th and recommended approval, as does staff.
Thank you, Ms. Hutz. I have a few questions. That determination that was made in 2022 was made by the city, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It was made by a former staff member.
So, in the verbiage, there was a mention that it was to be used for rental only. Does that mean that the owner of the business will rent the heavy equipment as opposed to selling heavy equipment?
Yeah, it's rental and service, so it would be, he could rent the equipment, but they would also service the equipment too. And they'll have the outdoor display showing, the equipment that, could be for lease, which is typically something that you would see in an industrial area.
Yeah, and I don't doubt that at all. I just wondered what the difference would be if sales had been, if there was a special effort to deny the opportunity to have sales of heavy equipment.
And that's probably
Is that
something.
just a consequence of what the POA put in, the HOA put in, what the HOA put in place, or do you know?
Yes, the POA, actually the PD mirrors the Property Owners Association covenants. So whatever they put in place when the Atlantic Center Industrial Park was created is pretty much what the PD says. It's
Okay.
pretty much the same language.
Wonderful. So light industrial doesn't unduly restrict the property owner anymore, and nor does it put the city in a position where it has lesser control.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I was just gonna move that we approve said ordinance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have properly seconded motion to approve item C. All in favor, please indicate so with showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item D is first reading of ordinance ZA 2024-07-15D to amend Article 10, subdivision and land development of the City of Conway's Unified Development Ordinance regarding revisions to various standards contained within the article. Ms. Hux.
Yes, the revisions to Article 10 were discussed at the workshop portion of the June 3rd council meeting. Planning Commission held the public hearing on the amendments at their June 6th meeting and recommended approval of the amendments. Included in Planning Commission's recommendation were additional minor revisions for Article 10, as well as revisions submitted by Public Works, including increasing the stormwater warranty from 1 to 3 years, revisions to the type of soil aggregate required for road construction, and roadway inspection requirements. Other items proposed to be amended in Article 10 are shown here on the screen and were previously discussed, and the ordinance has been updated to include all of the proposed revisions. As staff had previously said, there will be additional amendments to Article 10, which includes changes to the city's open space requirements and the requirements regarding conservation subdivisions. However, because those specific sections of Article 10 are comprehensive in nature, staff is advertising those amendments separately and is looking to have those considered in the next couple of months. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have on those changes, and staff does recommend approval.
Thank you, Ms. Hux. Are there questions or comments? I have one slight comment. It is not substantive. It does not change my thinking about whether or not we should do some approval, but some of the, this is lengthy. It just goes on for several pages, and there are just a couple of places that we might want to revise the language, just little housekeeping things that I think we can approve, Adam, and approve as is and just make those changes later. All right, thank you so much. In that case, Mr. White?
I was going to you. I move that we approve.
I'll second Mr. White's motion. Any further questions or comments? There being none, all in favor, please indicate your favor with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Hux. Item E is first reading of ordinance 2024-07-15E, an ordinance granting a distribution right-of-way easement to South Carolina Public Service Authority, Santee Cooper in our area, across property of the city of Conway adjacent to Wright Boulevard at Race Path Avenue. Ms. Hyman.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. This is a request from Santee Cooper for distribution right-of-way easement. They are doing a lot of upgrades in this area. They have existing poles, which I have a photo. The existing poles you can see here that they are hoping to convert to the cross arms. We spoke about this in length at the workshop at the last meeting, and favorably, and this is just back before you for first reading.
Will they look as good as these two?
They're supposed to, so hopefully so. These are some other ones they've installed in the area.
So sometimes there's a requirement for a double arm as opposed to just one.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. White?
May I move that we approve?
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Goldfinch?
I'll second Mr. White's motion, please.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve this easement for the Public Service Authority. Is there any discussion? There being none, we'll call a vote. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item F is first reading of ordinance 2024-07-15 F, an ordinance granting permanent and temporary easements to Dominion Energy across property belonging to the city of Conway and adjacent to Lake Busby. Mr. Rogers.
Good afternoon. This was discussed at the last meeting, and this is simply the first reading of the ordinance to make the agreement. So, and I will say there are representatives from Dominion here today if you have any questions.
Thank you so much. Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move we approve said ordinance.
Ms. Hardwick.
I do have a few questions.
Okay, you may ask them now. You don't
Okay.
have to wait for the second.
All right, could you talk a little bit about the safety of this pipeline that's now coming through our property? Like, what is the company doing to make sure if there is a gas leak, how will we know, and that our citizens and our environment are protected?
They'd be the experts on that. That's
Okay.
above my pay grade when it comes to energy, so I'll let them speak on that.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Welcome,
How do you
sir.
do? I thought I recognized some experts in the back of the room.
I'm Paul Thompson. I'm in the right-of-way group for Dominion Energy, over right-of-way group for South Carolina. Speaking to safety, it will be adequately deep. In many cases, it's very deep. It's being bored in. Across a portion of it, it will be at least 48 inches deep. So, and it's a very inaccessible area to start with. So hopefully that speaks to the safety some. We will have markers out so that it's obvious to the public that there is a line under there. It's a routine line. We have them all over the place. I know that's not very technical, and I'm not an engineer. I apologize.
That's
on
good
that.
enough, because there's been some questions, and I just
Yeah.
kind of wanted to go ahead and get it on the
Yeah.
record. And also, as far as the wetlands, And you and Santee Cooper have, and the federal government have been negotiating this for a while.
Like I said, a good bit of it will be bored in, where it's ineffective or inappropriate to work in wetlands. It'll be bored in what's called a horizontal directional drill. So there'll be a drilling machine set up. You see them on the highway, them pushing in the fiber cables, that sort of thing. That'll be set up on Highland, and it'll push it down underneath of the wetlands so that the wetlands are minimal disturbance on them.
And not violating any wetlands laws
We
for the
will
record?
have all of the core permits. That's where I wish my engineer could explain, but.
No, it's good enough.
We'll have every permit that's necessary in place before we do the work.
Okay, thank you.
You'll follow all standards that are set forth?
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Goldfinch?
And I'm just curious, and you may or may not know, but we have natural gas, and this is natural gas.
Correct.
We have natural gas on our street.
Yes.
Any idea how deep that is? Like if my 10-year-old's out there poking around with the shovel, I mean, he's not gonna hit it.
It's typical, a lower pressure line would typically be installed at 36 inches. As long as no one has uncovered it, it would be at least 36 inches deep and somewhat more than that. The service run into the house may be a little bit shallower, but then it's just a little.
Oh, that makes me nervous now.
And it's,
Take the shovels away, Lee.
and speaking as to safety, natural gas requires a very strict amount of air to be mixed with it for it to be generally flammable. So there's that too. It doesn't carry enough oxygen,
Right.
on its own.
Thank you.
And one more question. Heaven forbid, let's just say there was a break in the line and there was damage done to the environment and the residents. Who would shoulder that cost?
We would be responsible for any damage we cause.
Thank you, sir.
And with
And do you
that
have
said-
warning systems? I'm sure there's warning systems if there's leaks or
There's
something,
odorant-
aren't there?
There's odorant in there when you smell gas. You're not actually
Yeah.
smelling the gas, you're smelling the odorant.
That's the sulfur that's added, right?
Yeah, it's, I
Smell it.
can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's a chemical put in it to make it noticeable, because the natural gas itself is not.
Well, where this pipeline's noticing, probably nobody would smell it.
No,
So
ma'am.
there's got to be some triggers or some
not-
other.
Not that I'm aware of on the gas line,
Okay.
no.
Thank you very much. That was very informative.
With all that said, I'll second the motion. Any other comments or questions before we move forward? There being none, we'll call, I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers, do you want to add more? Okay, you're going to stand in support. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much for being here. Best wishes. Item G.
Thank you, sir.
Is first reading of ordinance 2024-07-15G, an ordinance amending Title I, Government and Administration, Chapter 8, Elections, transferring of authority from the City of Conway to the Horry County Election Commission for conducting the city's municipal elections. Mr. Rogers.
The City of Conway traditionally has held full authority to conduct all aspects of municipal elections, and that's not something that we do very often. We have a scheduled election every 2 years, so we don't have a dedicated department for it like the county does. So this is an ordinance to transfer authority to conduct the elections on Election Day to the County Election Commission.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goldfinch.
Mayor, I move we approve first reading of said ordinance.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, should we mention that there is language supportive of what is already written, that we've all read, but that is more legalese, if you will, that will be attached. Doesn't change anything that we've already had access to, but it does go into a deeper description of what all that means.
Right, and you can pass it with that language tonight.
All right, thank you so much. Is there a second? Mr. Jordan, thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. We have a properly seconded motion to approve this transfer of elections authority. All in favor, if you will, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item 7, for consideration. A, consideration of a special event, Riverfest 2024. which is to be held on June 29th. Mr. Rogers.
Yes, so this is the special event request for Riverfest. I'm not going to read all the, I think you know what Riverfest is. So they are requesting closure of Elm Street at 2nd Avenue, Marina Drive, and Laurel Street from 10 to 10 the day of the event.
And these are the same closures that we've supported every year, haven't we? Thank you so much. Mr. White?
I have a comment. Being that this is an annual occurring event, and if there are other annual occurring events that we have, could we just approve them without having to go through this every time unless there is some major change?
And we had tried to get there. I don't know what the specifics are about when that wouldn't work, but yeah.
Generally, if it's exactly the same as the request in the past, we'll put it on the consent agenda, so the council still has the ability to see it, review it, and approve it, but not to waste time in the middle of the meeting. This is slightly different than past years. It's not a lot different, but the layout is slightly different, so that's why we put it on our regular agenda.
So even though the road closures and the safety issues are pretty much the same, the space is different.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there'll be, like, vendors are in slightly different spots and parking, but, yeah.
Okay, well, and I'd rather you bring it just in case, rather than not bring it at all. I'm not sure where we were.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, please. That'll remind me.
And looking at the map, I just want to make sure I'm right. The residents who are in the condominiums down at the marina, they will not be blocked from getting in or out their residence, will they?
No, and I believe Kelly can confirm they keep access for them to make way through the day.
Thank you, I just wanted to confirm. Okay.
Mr. White,
Excuse me. May I move that we approve?
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a properly seconded motion to approve this special event called Riverfest for June 29th. All in favor, please indicate so with a showing of your hand. And this motion also carries unanimously. Item 8 is the city administrator's report. Mr. Emery.
There is one more item
Did I
before
miss
my
something?
report.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Item B is consideration of selection of a design professional to create a City of Conway Parks master plan.
Yes, the city advertised publicly to select a firm for this, and the idea is the plan would have a needs assessment and an inventory of all the facilities that we currently have, and offer suggestions on how we need to grow. As the city's growing, we need spaces for parks, so this master plan would help identify where those new parks would need to be located, what kinds we would want to place where, identify appropriate staffing needs, and also make sure that there's a cohesive look and branding for each of these parks. So we're really excited about this moving forward. 3 proposals were submitted by firms, and staff scored these proposals and chose Greenberg Farrow as the highest scoring of the 3. So staff recommends the selection of Greenberg Farrow.
I have a comment, and I hope you'll take this as a compliment. That is the way it's intended. I have so much confidence in what we know about our city. I'm just wondering if this isn't one of those times that we don't need outside experts. Help me want somebody else to do it.
I think we do in certain ways, and we'll be heavily involved in the process, but we need a firm to come in to be a neutral party. They will have public meetings, they will provide the online survey, they will meet with stakeholders in a way that sometimes it's hard for city staff because we're so proud of everything we do. Sometimes you need that neutral party there. And also, they follow national and state trends. They know the way things are moving in a way that we may not, and they're professionals.
Like our hesitance to pickleball.
Exactly. So I think in that way, it does help, but it will not be done in a vacuum. Staff will be heavily involved in the process, and we want to make sure the public is as well.
I feel a little better. Anyone else have comments? Mr. White? Yes.
Has this firm done any work for us personally?
Has this firm? No, but one of the local persons that would be heavily involved in this does serve on the planning commission and is a city resident.
Well, that's appropriate. Mr. Goldfinch?
And remind us what our funding source is for this?
We received a grant from the State Parks and Recreation Fund, the PARD Fund, and we also allocated some hospitality money and some recreational professional services money. So three
So
different
what
pots.
what I heard you say was grant funding.
Grant funding, yes.
Hospitality
Yes.
money.
Yes,
None of this this tax increase is going towards
none of it, no.
building parks. It's going
Correct.
towards public safety.
Correct.
I just wanted to say that for the 1200th time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goldfinch. And Ms. Hyman. Any other comments or questions before we move forward? I will move then that we approve the selection of a firm for the design, as the design professional as we look towards a Conway Parks master plan. Is there a second? Ms. Hyman?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you so much. Ms. Hyman. Ms. Hyman, you can do it too. Here we go again.
She doesn't call you Justin.
I knew it was an H. Ms. Helms.
Second his motion.
If I don't correct myself right away, you know the story. You'll always be Ms. Hyman. I have a probably seconded motion to approve the designated firm for this purpose. All in favor, please indicate so with showing of your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, our city administrator's report.
Mayor and council, if you allow staff to make motions and second motions, we can make these meetings go a lot faster.
If we let you do them?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
On
We'll
June,
think about
on June 25th, we will host a public meeting about the grant-funded McKeithen Watershed Project. This meeting will provide residents with more information about the project that have representation from our design and professional engineering team that'll be there to lead the meeting and answer any questions that might be had. It is at the Planning and Development Department meeting room from 5 p.m. until 7 p.m. Again, that's on the 25th. For those of you not familiar with this project, it is the project behind the old school on Sherwood that will take uplands and convert them into wetlands for water storage, for both flood relief and water quality as it gets into Crabtree Canal. Also grant-funded project. The summer.
Sorry, it's funded how?
It's grant-funded, sir.
Okay.
Yes. The summer movie series will continue this Friday with the movie Grease. On the 29th of June, we'll host the 2024 Summer Slam Mixed Doubles Pickleball Tournament, which I believe will be very heavily attended. Ashley, do you have any idea how many we've got signed up for that? 40 teams.
40 teams? I'm sorry.
The WES football and cheer camp is June 29th, and that is all day at the Sports and Fitness Complex. We've also heard we've heard a few accounts of misinformation about the landscaping in the Kingston parking lot. Our staff has spent a lot of time choosing the appropriate plant materials for the bioswale that fronts Kingston Street. And for those of you who don't understand what a bioswale is, it captures the stormwater runoff from the parking lot before it gets into the pipes that run directly into the river. It's an opportunity, number one, to capture more water in storage, to slow it down, to clean it before it gets into the river. In the downtown area, it's very difficult to build these things, so we were able to squeeze a bioswale in where it was not heretofore able to be put. It was built into the design, and part of that building into the design is the choice of plant material. The plants that were chosen based on the succession and bloom time, the color arrangement, the height of maturity, more importantly with the erosion control, the ability to withstand pollutants and uptake those pollutants, preventing them from getting into the river, and finally, the ability to withstand the fluctuations of a dry and wet environment. But most importantly, those plants are arranged in a pattern that will slow the water down so that they have a longer period of time to clean the water. There are 2 different species of fortnight lily, lavender, 2 types of mat rush, switchgrass, yucca, St. John's wort, bee balm, rosemary, butterfly bush, river oaks, blue aster, and more and more and more. I can assure you they are not weeds. They were chosen specifically for the purpose that they're in there for, and they are doing what nature can do better than we can do, and that's why they're there. If you hear complaints to the contrary, please correct them. It is either misinformation or disinformation. Either way, it's untrue.
And several of them attract butterflies.
That's correct. There are a few spots left on the youth council for the fall. If anyone is watching, or if you have a student at Conway High School that would like to be on that or be interested in it, the website for Conway High School has the opportunity to sign up for that, and that gets vetted through the school. Unfortunately, there is a tropical system just off the coast of the Bahamas that we're keeping an eye on. We do not think it will have much of an impact on us. I'm waiting for Lee to give me the no sign. But we are watching it nonetheless. He's looking at it right now. Let's say it's no. Let's say no. No storm. Good. All right. We've got the seal of approval from our emergency manager that it's not anything to worry
I
about.
hope he's as powerful as we'd like him to be.
As you know, periodically I get updates from the Coastal Carolina Association of Realtors about the trends of the housing industry. I received one this morning. Nationwide, the higher borrowing costs and accelerated home prices have created a dip in the existing home sales compared to last year. However, locally, our inventory has continued to increase, finally crossing the pre-COVID threshold. That has allowed for a slight decrease in the median sales price. For Conway specifically, our single-family listings are up 34% year over year. Our closed sales are up 1.8%. The median sales price has increased by 1% to $295,000, and the days on the market has actually decreased by 6%. Those are all pretty healthy signs of our local housing market. Where our market is not performing well is our multifamily. Our listings are severely lagging. New listings are down, closed sales are down, and median prices all dropping. That means we don't have enough on the market, or there's not enough demand, or a combination of the two. If you ever look at the townhomes and condo sales in Conway, we have like 40 a year compared to hundreds of home sales. So it's really, we don't have a very large market to create a very large survey size. We also learned this afternoon that the rail turn bridge just upriver is malfunctioning. It's in the open rail position, which means boats cannot get through. We are sure to hear about this. There is no timetable for the fix, but they are working on it as hard as they can, ordering parts and getting them in. Last I heard, they were not fully sure what was the problem, but they're working on it. So know that if you hear that there is a problem, we are aware of it, and so are they.
Is that near the trestle?
It's just upriver. You can see it from the river walk. So yeah. Before I turn it over to our department heads tonight, I do want to let you know there are 2 workshop items. They're not super lengthy, we don't believe, and if possible, we'd like to do them here just to allow the meeting to go faster. And then we will have a couple executive session items for discussion later. I do have department head reports first, though, from our planning department and our solid waste department. Reggie, you want to go first? All right.
Chair, Council, Solid Waste Department has received 2 grants. One was from DHEC for $41,000 from the Hurricane Recovery Fund. With that grant, we purchased 1 mosquito sprayer and leased 2 years of chemicals. The other grant was from the Solid Waste Authority. That was $10,000, and we purchased 300 blue recycling carts. Solid Waste Department has 1 open position, which is a front-end loader driver, early morning. 3 of our new trucks have came in, the automated one-arm trucks that you should be seeing through the neighborhoods. And the landfill bill was $83,327.26 for the month of May. And we are striving to increase recycling to get that bill down. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. White? No, Mr. White.
The blue cards that you said you ordered, are they free for the community or no?
Yes, they are free, but they are all gone. We got them in March, and they was gone before May.
Before you got them?
Well, almost before I got it.
Thanks,
Yes.
I was just going to say that I have fielded a couple of complaints about the armed
Truck.
apparatus and some trash being left behind. But if you hear anybody say that I said we're going to stop using them with the decision that we've made to use them, with the expense that we put into buying them, please don't believe them. That is not what I said at all. We may have, I'm happy that as soon as there have been some spills, and when that happens, your folk have shown up pretty promptly to clean matters up, and I appreciate that. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Helms.
I fielded a few complaints too. I was just wondering, the IRF, the new one,
Yes, ma'am.
the people that are across across 905 Fourth Avenue, they're having to walk their trash. And they're really concerned that they don't have trash cans anymore. Is that something we decided as a council, or is that something? I've had a lot of people complain about having to walk the trash that weren't restaurants, so to speak.
Let me see, can I explain it this way? We have 3 IRFs in place. We built the first one over there by the water tower, and that serviced that whole area from the marina all the way back to the water tower. I think the customers that has the condominiums on the Riverwalk have to bring all their trash to that IRF.
Do they roll it with their own carts though?
Most people puts it in their trunk, or they, as they leaving out, and drop it off, or the back of their truck and bring it to it.
And I think, if I might add, pardon me, please, but I think we've also reduced their sanitation costs because they are actively participating in getting it from one spot to another.
That is correct.
Okay.
And then we added the second IRF, which is right there at the corner of Scarborough Alley, which affect all of downtown, basically, or a great bit of downtown. And it's working pretty good as far as people don't have carts at the back of their businesses, or when a restaurant open their back door, flies and stuff doesn't come in. So it's been helpful. And the third IRF is over here on the Jerry Cox side. It's brand new, and it's new. And in the beginning, we had some complaints, but the first 2 IRFs, everybody loves them. And this is the biggest complaint that I got on this IRF.
And the last question, they wanted to know, could they have an independent trash company pick their stuff up?
Our city ordinance doesn't allow that.
That's what I said, but I just need to hear it from you.
Okay.
And I had a discussion about that today, and it seems like, the farthest person, I wouldn't advise anybody to try to cross carrying nothing midway where, what is the street behind the bank?
Kingston.
Right, I wouldn't recommend somebody do it from Kingston, but if they went up to the traffic light, that's another matter. Now, the only real hardship that I could imagine is if they're in torrential rain, or if it's, those odd, rare instances where we have ice or snow. But change doesn't come easy to people. But I like to think that first we give it a try. Hopefully it's not as difficult as one might get. Mr. Goldfinch.
So I think the same person, we've talked to the same person. Flow control ordinance in conjunction with Overy County does not allow a private hauler to take private trash to the public dump. But it's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that they can have a trash can on their property and pay someone to take it to the IRF if they want to. Is that right? Did I understand that right?
I will address it this way. If they have someone to come and do the cleaning of the building, and they wants to pay that person to take it to the IRF, then that's fine. But our ordinance says that a private outside company cannot come into the city and haul trash.
Got it.
That makes sense.
One thing to jump in here with and help Reggie out too is there's another IRF that is in the work and planned that will probably be on the other side of 4th Avenue at Laurel Street. We have a parking lot there that there's room in the back. We've actually discussed that with council before. That would help service Crooked Oak, the new River City, and Stella's and some other restaurants on that way. They also will have to cross 4th Avenue to get to that because there is not a location where we can put it that would be on the other side of 4th Avenue. So we are limited in where they can go by a function of the property we own and the ability of our trucks to be able to access it. It'd be very nice to put one in the alleyway behind Crooked Oak. We can't get our trucks in and out of there to empty it, so.
I think you answered all my questions.
I think that's all. I'm sorry, no.
I want to go back to the blue recycling bins. They are still available to be purchased by our citizens, right?
That's correct.
$70?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
right?
That's
Okay.
correct.
And you can purchase those over time, can't you?
Yes, Allison will
What are the
break it.
terms, if you don't mind, Allison? 3 months to pay for a $70
Okay.
item.
And I will, if I could, I do think there is when you're talking about crossing Fourth Avenue at Laurel Street versus Main Street, that is a concern for me, because I think that is a much more dangerous pedestrian intersection trying to get across there, because people are kind of crazy. And they drive through there crazy, just for the record. My thoughts on that. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Welcome, Ms. Hux. We haven't seen you in a while.
Yes. So normally when I give a department report, I provide several numbers to update you on items that are handled mainly by staff in planning and development. They include our annexation and rezoning request numbers, variance requests, appeals, community appearance board or tree board requests, the number of lots that are currently in review, how many illegal signs that have been removed, among other statistics that show how busy our department and the city as a whole is when it comes to development in general. And I do have some of those statistics that I can provide, but first I thought I would just share a snapshot of what the department, under the direction of council, has accomplished this past year, because I know there are many times when the public only sees or hears about the number of homes being built or proposed to be built. And while a large part of planning and development is the review of proposed subdivisions or other types of development within the city, there are other things that planning and development are involved in that have a positive impact on the city of Conway and its residents. Over the last year, the city has adopted 14 amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance. And while that is a lot of changes to the city's zoning and land development regulations, there are currently 10 text amendments in process. Some of the more notable amendments that have been adopted include revisions to residential design standards for major subdivisions that provide additional standards to ensure quality design of residential structures and that protect and preserve the character of residential areas throughout the city. Standards for electric vehicle charging stations that permit charging stations in certain areas and zoning districts, but also limits supercharging stations or level 3 chargers to areas with the highest traffic volume. An increased height limit in the high-density residential district for properties on Highway 501 bypass to encourage multifamily development, but in areas where high-density development is needed and appropriate. Eliminated parts of our ordinance that required religious institutions to rezone to a planned development district if the property was 3 or more acres in size, ensuring the city's compliance with the Religious Land Uses and Institutionalized Persons Act. And amended the city's future land use map for property off of Sessions Street, which allowed a property containing an existing church to be rezoned to a district that would permit a daycare at that location, something that is needed within the community. And finally, an amendment to the UDO that permits council to zone property as conservation preservation upon annexation or through the rezoning of property if it contains environmentally sensitive areas. That amendment, along with the city's other current mechanisms for preserving wetlands or floodplains through conservation subdivision design or through the development agreement process just in the last couple of years, has ensured that nearly 1,000 acres of environmentally sensitive property would be preserved in perpetuity, with several hundred more acres expected to be added to that total through proposed development of conservation subdivisions and annexations. Aside from that total, the city currently has approximately 3,000 acres designated as conservation. Staff is currently working on several amendments to the UDO that would address issues that have created many variance requests over the years regarding corner lots and existing lots with double frontage, and getting close to completing a draft of the rewrite of the tree preservation ordinance, another topic that was discussed at the budget retreat in 2023. Our goal is to have the draft ordinance reviewed by the tree board at one of their July meetings, and then have it considered by Planning Commission in August or September. As far as other statistics are concerned, Planning and Development has had 183 plan reviews through the end of May, which include residential and commercial development, 313 single-family residential dwelling reviews, 378 reviews for accessory structure permits, nearly 600 illegal signs removed, 36 mobile vending permits have been issued, 335 zoning violations have been addressed. GIS staff has created approximately 600 maps. They have assigned 437 addresses since January 1st and have updated the GIS layers to reflect 185 restrictive covenants that have been recorded since January 1st. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
I just want to applaud you. I think the public needed to hear that. I certainly needed to hear that. Those are the hidden pieces of a lot of work, a lot of thoughtful work, and I thank you for making certain those things were done, because they do impact us in the best kinds of ways. Thank you
Yes,
for that
ma'am.
report. Anyone else?
Kudos.
Thank you so much. And now we will have we're done with you, Adam? Thanks. I don't mean done with you.
Done with you.
I mean, are you done with us? No, I mean, are we done? We'll move forward with council input, and tonight we'll start with Ms. Hardwick.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say thank you for Dominion Energy to be here to answer those questions. Staff had answered them also, but it was nice to hear it from you guys also. So thank you. The June 10th celebration at Smith Jones Park was fun. I really enjoyed the exhibit. I loved the music. I really got some jewelry, got some pound cake, got some T-shirts, but I really did. It was really a great event, and I do look forward to us building upon that. Also, thank you for the staff, what you do. I think both department heads, Reggie and Jessica, y'all, your reports are showing how much the city is growing and how we are keeping in step and stride to match the growth. And thank you for everything that y'all do. That's it, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hardwick. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, congratulate Grant Holmes from Conway.
Yes.
Worked his way from the rec up through 10 years of minor league ball, and got to make his debut for the Atlanta Braves yesterday. So congratulations to Grant.
Yes.
And that's all I have tonight, Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goldfinch.
Just a few quick things. You know, I want to, we've been beat up the last couple of months because we've taken steps to ensure and make sure our community is not only remains safe, but continues to remain safe, you know, by ensuring that, you know, we've got great public safety employees. And I think for the first time ever, Chief Hendrick, correct me if I'm wrong, you know, we're starting the firefighter ones off at more than Erie County. And I think, you know, nobody likes to pay more in taxes, but we have to take care of our people, and so I'm glad we're doing that. Green cans, when we bring these IRFs in and initiate these IRFs, I'm trying to remember, is there a phase-out period where, you know, you say to a business, okay, we're going to have this IRF starting, you know, June 1. You know, we're going to continue to honor trash pickup for, I don't know, pick a period, 3 months, 6 months. And where I'm going with this is this. Businesses have to plan out into the future. And you know, whether it's a cleaning crew or whomever, if we're not doing that, you know, eventually you got to give them a drop dead date and say, all right, effective, you know, the IRF's open June 1st, come, you know, September 1st or January 2nd, you know, we're not picking up green cans anymore. You know, y'all figure that out, but I think that's the fair and righteous thing to do, is to give businesses an opportunity, a heads up, to plan for the change so they can plan accordingly. And then last thing I got, I had Grant Holmes written down too, Justin. That, you know, I think this is right, that he is the first, I mean, not only is he from Conway and he grew up in Conway, but he's the first kid from Horry County to ever play in the major leagues, not the minor leagues, but the major leagues. And, you know, getting hurt and hurting his arm and having this procedure done and that, and he stuck with it. And it's, to me, what really rings home and true there is that it's a testament to, you know, his perseverance and not giving up. And I'll tell you, that sends one heck of a message to our young people, because I think today in an instant gratification world, we want everything now, right? We want a bigger salary now. We don't, you know, well, Grant's worked his behind off to get where he's got, and good for him. And I think it would be cool, and y'all tell me what y'all think, to do not a proclamation, but a council resolution honoring, you know, this kid from Conway who's the first major league baseball player. And somebody can fact check me on that. I think that's right. But I think that's a great thing. Just an idea we can talk about later. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White?
I would like to say I'm glad to be back in the seat again. I've been out for the last couple of weeks, one with the mayor at a convention up in DC, and then last week I went on a vacation with my kids. So while I was gone, I still sent my little requests in to the mayor or Adam or someone to let them know that I was watching what was going on also. So I'm glad to be back, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. White. Ms. Helms?
I wanted to say that I went by the Riverwalk, and it does look awesome, so I'm excited about that. I want to commend our staff. I appreciate your suggestions. I will pass them along, just questions that were asked that I just kind of wanted to bring forth. Sports. I don't know if we know this. I didn't know this till today, but we had 35 baseball teams at the Billy Gardner Complex this weekend for a Top Gun Southeastern Championship. Also hosted 11 and 12 district tournament. The 10U and 12U fast pitch teams are going to the state again this year, and they're going for their 4P, or however you say that. So that's pretty awesome. The girls are doing well. Also, I think that's a great idea about that resolution. That's a big deal for Grant. And I think, I do have one more thing. I've had a couple people call me about the grass at Conway Country Club. Just being a little bit of an eyesore for people passing on Country Club, going to the grocery store, which we don't have but one or two. So if we could check on that, I would appreciate it. But other than that, I appreciate everything the staff does, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Helms. I also support that resolution strongly. I agree with Cheryl Adamson and others that our first Juneteenth was a really good showing of a beginning that has great potential for our future. I want to thank her and Ashley Smith and both your staffs for making it so. It was hot Saturday, but people came out anyway, and it was certainly worthwhile. So I was born in the South, and I'm a woman in the South, and modesty is important. I'm going to say a couple of things that sound really, really, really immodest, but there's a point to all this. Next month, up until next month, I am the president of the South Carolina Municipal Association. I think it's important that Conway has had that level of leadership and has sort of brought some attention to who we are. We're considered a moderate-sized town in the state of South Carolina. There are 271 municipalities, and they're like the Greenvilles, Charlestons, Columbias of the world, and then they're the Atlantic Beaches and Hollywoods of the world with fewer than 200 people. But our work has made certain that when considerations for the entire state were made, that Conway has not been left out. I will also next month, until next month, be the chairman of the board for the Waccamaw Council of Governments. There are pieces of money that are distributed from the federal government through the region as opposed to doing it through the state. A lot of infrastructure money, roads money, aging money, educational components. A lot comes through that place. And again, Mr. Leslie McIver and I have been on that board like forever. Conway is well known on that board. I hope that we'll continue to be aware of the value of these things as we move forward, and make sure nobody ever forgets Conway, South Carolina. Along with Grant, I just want to do a shout out to a young man whose mother, I didn't even talk to his dad, but his mother this weekend gave me permission to claim what would it be now? Grand godmotherhood. And his name is Will Smith. Will is joining the Florida Hurricanes, and I'm mighty proud of him. And just wanted to say that out loud for anybody who might be listening. Other things that have gone on in my life in the last week or two, I went to Washington, D.C. this past week after going with Larry with the Federal Flood Coalition. I went this past week with the Municipal Association, had a real dynamic conversation with the Department of Energy. There are enormous pieces of money, particularly for new clean energy, things like charging stations, things that are pertinent to a growing community such as ours. I had a meeting with some of the authorities with the National League of Cities. I met with staff from Senator Lindsey Graham's office and appealed to them our concern about bridges and our own other infrastructure. And for the first time in my life, I made it inside the White House. Went into the West Wing. There's a new office that's been developed, Outreach, I believe it's called. Steve Benjamin, who was a law school classmate of mine and who more recently was the mayor of Columbia, South Carolina, runs that organization, and it was pretty cool to say that I've been inside the White House. I just wanted everybody to know. So that's enough of my immodesty. Back to being Barbara. Just want to say that overall, there's an assumption that being an elected official is a thankless job with nothing but people's problems and pointing fingers and just having issues with everything that happens. And that just isn't the case. I am overwhelmed with compliments about this place, and it is because of these people, and these people. And I am mighty proud to be associated with Conway, South Carolina. People in the state and outside the state know who we are and know how we've grown and thrived and know the new offerings that we have. And that's why everybody wants to be here, Ms. Hucks. And your job is just going to grow over time, and I can't help it. I don't know anything to do about that. But to all of you, a sincere, very sincere thank you for your work, for your thoughtfulness, for your creativeness, for all you do. And with that said, we'll now go into a workshop, and I'm going to ask the administrator to speak to what the workshop is on.
We have two items, both of them are planning related. One is about a potential annexation, and I'll let her introduce the second one because it's on mine.
Okay. Both of my mind, that's why I put it on you. All right, very good. Ms. Hicks, if you'll just say just the subject matter of the second workshop.
Yes, it's about car wash facilities and mobile.
All right. Please feel free to stay. We're going to sit in this room. We're not going to depart from it until we go into executive session. So if you have time, feel free to stay. Thank you so much.
The applicants, Thomas and Hutton, who are also present, Mr. Warren, are looking to request annexation of this property located on Highway 905 and John Doctor Road for the purposes of residential development. There are several properties with frontage on John Doctor Road that are within the city limits, but only one on the opposite side furthest from the city limits, at the corner of John.
We're
Yes.
sort of losing you with the traffic.
yeah,
If you might give them just a second to settle. Thank you. You're sort of soft-spoken.
I know,
Do you know
I
that?
apologize.
Yeah.
I'll try to be a little bit louder. It is staff's understanding that at one time there had been discussions about not annexing any further outside the city limits, but this property is within the city's water and sewer utility service area, so any development would require the applicant to at least request annexation. The property is 126 acres. It's currently zoned Horry County Commercial Forest Agriculture, Horry County SF 40, which requires 40,000 square foot lot size, and SF 20, which requires 20,000 square foot lot size. Most of the in-city zoning surrounding the property is R1, which is the former default zoning district. In 2019, council adopted a new default zoning district of R, which is the new low-density residential district. If annexed, the property could be assigned R, which would require 10,000 square foot minimum lot size. However, if annexed, given the default zoning of R, the property could also be developed as a conservation subdivision, which would reduce the required lot size to 6,000 square foot minimum. Staff wanted to bring this for you to get your thoughts on the request and to make council aware that if the applicant seeks annexation under the default zoning of R, Planning Commission is not required to make a recommendation, and no public hearing would be required. But the density that could ultimately be achieved if annexed is significantly less than what the county's, the density could be significantly more than what the county's current zoning district requires. If the applicant sought to rezone the property in the county, they would be required to request rezoning. There would be a public hearing. And regardless of that, because the property is within the utility service area, it's likely they would have to request annexation before that could occur. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions that you have, and Mr. Warren is also present as well.
Yes. Yes, please. Mr. White and then Mr. Goldfinch.
Okay, the area around this, annexation piece, is it what is it zoned?
So as you can see on the right side of your screen, the yellow and the green, light green, those are all parcels that are in the city limits. Most of it is R1, which is your, pale yellow color. The R district, which it's fairly new, it would be like a bright yellow color. But you've got some conservation preservation, which I believe, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is the city's, yeah. So that is where they do a shooting range out there, have a shooting range. And then there's some forest agriculture, and it looks like some medium density residential closer to the top. That's that orange color. But other than that, in the county, you have a lot of SF 20, SF 40, and commercial forest agriculture in Horry County. Commercial forest agriculture in the county would require half-acre lot size minimum. SF 20 is 20,000 square foot, and then SF 40 is 40,000 square foot minimum. And if annexed under the default zoning, it would only be a 10,000 square foot lot size.
And now hearing that the shooting range is in that area also.
Yes, sir. It's that dark green square.
Okay.
Yes.
Distance wide from that area, more or less?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
How many miles, or is it a mile between where the shooting range is and that little area?
That's not far at all. If I had to guess, I mean, maybe not even a quarter of a mile, maybe a tenth of a mile. But most of this property is it's kind of similar to the Snow Hill. We have a Snow Hill, or not Snow Hill, but River's Edge Plantation, which is closer than where this development would be. It's across the road or across John Doctor, but it wouldn't be as close as the other subdivision is going to be.
Thank you.
Mr. Goldfinch.
Thank you, Mayor. would your client be interested in a plan development?
I'm not saying it's ruled out at all, but, you know, it's kind of interesting dilemma. The property's contiguous to city limits. Because we get water and sewer from the city,
Yeah.
we're mandated to request annexation at time of water and sewer service. So rather than try to do anything in the county, it makes sense to do it and follow all the city guidelines and rules. But as far as the PD, there's no mixed use intended. It would strictly be residential use, which wouldn't fit within the PD parameters.
They have, and we can't require it, of course, but they have proposed to develop it as a conservation subdivision.
Ms. Huggs, I'm not aware of any, or I've forgotten perhaps, discussion about not doing any annexations on 905. Now, I remember just a few years ago, if it's been a few, that there was a group of people a couple miles out on 905 that wanted us to sign an agreement to never, in perpetuity, ever, to annex that far. But I don't know, I mean, we're not going to tie the hands of the future of our town, but do you know about that?
I do recall us having that discussion. You know, Mr. Emmerich changed my mind and my way of thinking on this. Remember, I got real loud about, okay, this doesn't need to get any bigger, and Mr. Emmerich made a very valid point. Well, William, if we don't do it, the county's gonna let them do it. And they're still gonna have a 29526 address. They're still gonna call Conway home. And it's gonna, you know, construction standards are gonna be less. I love the idea of a conservation subdivision. You know, people want small lots. I don't wanna live on a small lot. But if that's what you want, and less land is developed and disturbed, then I get that. The reason I asked about the plan development, and I get the whole thing about not having mixed use, is as we continue, it's one thing when we fill in a donut hole. It's one thing when Reggie's trash truck has to drive right by it. But when Reggie's trash truck has to drive even further, that becomes an undue burden and economic impact on existing city residents. And that's what I'm getting a lot of pushback lately is, you know, all of this growth isn't paying for itself. And so most recently, we've approved some plan developments where, you know, we've included enhancement fees that would offset that cost. And that's why I asked the question, because, you know, maybe this neighborhood doesn't cost someone who's been here forever, you know, additional money, but you know, my defense into some of these new neighborhoods, especially as we expand our boundaries and make our footprint bigger, is, well, we are taking proactive steps in the form of enhancement fees and that sort of thing on the front end to offset what we know is going to be a new police car, what we knew is going to be a new sanitation truck, what we know is going to be the need for new firefighters, you know. A new park. You know, we just raised taxes significantly to keep what we've got. We didn't do that to fund new positions necessarily. And so I think this is part of a broader discussion that, you know, we need to have as a group. If we're gonna continue, because I get Mr. Emmerich's argument, and I agree with him, if it's gonna happen anyway, let's have it happen our way. And so we can, you know, mandate, you know, do you want to speak?
I think the question is whether we should look at a development agreement, not necessarily a plan development.
And I apologize.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
That's your wheelhouse, not mine, but yeah.
And I think we have not established as a city a policy on what size would trigger the development agreement. But I think that's sort of what this conversation is leading toward. What is it, 126 acres, is that what it is? So it's 126 acres. It's certainly not the largest we've done recently, but it is a larger subdivision. So I think if y'all want to establish a policy that you're gonna, if it's acreage or the number of lots that are established, then that's when you'd ask for a development agreement. I think that would be something that would give us as staff something to rely upon.
Bring some
And for the
proposals.
development community, so they know what to expect when they come in.
Bring proposals to us.
And,
We're probably at that point.
and one
Could
other.
you-
one-
Go ahead, go ahead,
No, go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay. And one other thing, and Mr. White brought this up, is the gun range. We chose not to annex a particular piece of property east of here a while back that was near a what am I talking about?
Yeah.
We chose not to annex
Paving.
the batch plant itself.
The batch plant that had been there since 1984, and, and the neighbors showed up, and, well, we didn't know it was a batch plant. Well, okay, so you guys are smarter and more creative than I am. There's got to be, when we do this, inevitably, that's gonna, they're gonna be lined out the door. Well, I couldn't, I sleep late, and all I heard was, rapid gunfire. I mean, I don't know how we address that, but I think it's worth looking at because it's gonna happen. We know it's gonna happen.
Well, this might just go to this. Could you go back to that first map? Okay. The city, where's the city limits currently?
So all the ones that have colors assigned to them, those are the city limits.
So if the gun range is the dark blue, or the dark green, correct? Mm-hmm. And the yellow is city,
Correct.
so is the green not in the city limits?
Yes, it is.
So the gun range is already in the city limits?
Not that green, two different greens, I think.
The square.
The square.
Yeah, that's it, right there.
So the gun range is already in the city limits?
Yes.
And if
Okay.
you go a little bit further south, I don't know if I can get
So
this
then-
to,
We've got to get some
Where's
of
the
those
church?
things that work. Staff,
The battery's dead.
we need to get some that work.
There it is.
Is there no such thing that does
That.
work?
Where is the church? I've lost, where's Langston?
yeah, I think it's,
It's,
Follow Country Club down, that's Country Club there. Keep going down, it's right there.
okay. I know where John Doctor Road is, I just couldn't see it well enough on the map.
Are you done with your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound however I might have sounded.
Oh, it's perfect.
All right, very good. Any other comments or questions? I mean, this is workshop, now's a good time, but we'll think of more, staff, as we delve into this deeper.
and I don't know what the applicant's timeline is, but the next council meeting, because there would be no planning commission process due to the default zoning being requested, it could come before council, the next council meeting, which I think is July 15th. Now granted, if it is denied, he could move forward at the county. But then you could run into a situation like you have in Langston Heights, where you've got some lots within that subdivision in the county and some within the city. So if the lots are created, then you have individual lots, if they get sold, that have to come in and request annexation individually as well, because of the contiguity situation. And I don't know if
Is
Mr.
Langston
Warren.
Heights, I'm sorry, is Langston Heights opposite the church with Country Club pretty much dividing it? Is that development?
Yes, I think June's got her mouse a little bit closer to the road, to 905 June. Yeah, that's got some lots in yellow and some lots
I
aerial.
still don't know. How does that, show me, okay, Country Club is the black line?
Yes.
And the church is that larger square? So where is, if I were at the traffic light at 905 and Country Club, and if I were coming from Conway Post Office, is it this?
It's going to be on the left.
On the left?
Right there, yeah, that's it, June.
Right, yeah.
That's it.
Right.
Some of them aren't in the city.
I'm just trying to figure out where it is. I get that part, but,
The development was approved in the county. But then individual lots, because they weren't developed, had to request annexation, and then they don't really have a lot of the requirements like sidewalks and other things, or the strict design standards that the city has. So we could run into that. I'm not saying that we would, and it might be 10 years down the road, but we could run into that same situation.
And you recommend that we avoid it how?
Well, staff would support the request because it is in the city's utility service area.
Right.
Yeah, Mayor, I just brought that up as a discussion about, just a policy discussion, just, as we step outside of our footprint. I mean, it's one thing, if you were going left of Country Club, I mean, that's already in the city, but when you increase the square mileage of the city, inevitably that puts burdens on our resources and our staff and equipment and all that. And
I get it. Any other comments? I think we've workshopped it.
It's exciting.
All right, the next one, car wash and auto detailing. Oh, yeah.
Thank you for being so conscientious. You're right. As we go through a meeting, we never know whose expertise we may need. So I've insisted that everybody be here. But at this point, but I'm agreeing with you. At this point, we're going to workshop something that has to do with mobile auto detailing, and we've got the right department head. I can't imagine this or our executive session involving something that's so deep that we would need you to stand and recite policy or procedures. So with your permission.
That is,
Emma,
yes, if it's okay with you, it's okay with us.
I would say, except for these people, of course, on the front row. But
Unless
the
you
rest
need
of
to stay, you can go.
The rest of y'all, good night. Have a good night.
Bye, William.
Bye-bye.
I'm afraid you might need to stay. Thank you, Beth. That was so cool of you.
He knows you're going to talk about it.
All right. Good to see you,
Thank
Kelly.
you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for your time. And you know what? There may be a time in every meeting that this applies.
All right, bye-bye.
Mr. Emmerich. And we've got the judge here. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, yeah. Bye-bye.
No, that was a good interruption.
Thank you.
And for future purposes, we might need to consider that at this point of every meeting. Yeah, I don't want to tie people for the sake of tying them. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Basically, a few weeks ago, we received a business license request for an auto detailing or car washing business that would be located within Commerce Plaza Industrial Park on East Cox Ferry Road. Car washing and auto detailing are classified as a conditional use in highway commercial, light industrial, and heavy industrial. However, the site is now required to comply with certain conditions for the use to be established. Most of the time, a site would be able to comply if the property is developed for the use, but there are cases where a property is already developed. The use occupies a building, making that particular use difficult for those who seek to move an auto detailing or car washing business, such as the use cannot be located within 100 feet of a residential district. The property must contain an exit drive 100 feet in length. Surface and drainage treatment at the exit drive shall be designed so no water accumulates on the surface or in public rights-of-way. And the minimum lot size shall be 20,000 square feet. Staff agrees car washing facilities should continue to adhere to these standards, but auto detailing or mobile auto detailing facilities may be classified separately better with different conditions. We've turned dozens and dozens of people away who want to operate a mobile auto detailing business as a home-based business because the use could not meet conditions for the use and the concern that the business would be conducted from the home with cars lined up along neighborhood streets to be washed and detailed. But just like with other home-based businesses, there are conditions that could be put on the zoning compliance for the business license, and if violated, it could be revoked. Horry County zoning ordinance permits it as a home-based business, which is new because years ago it was not permitted as a home-based business. Additionally, Horry Georgetown Technical College has brought back an automotive program after 30 years, offering automotive reconditioning as a course or study within the program. Automotive reconditioning is the process of taking a pre-owned car, sending it through multiple inspections, making full repairs if needed, and a full detailing to bring it to like-new conditions. Staff just wanted to bring this to you to see if you would like staff to pursue an amendment to the ordinance that would separate the use of mobile detailing from car washing facilities and list certain conditions that would apply to business licenses for mobile car washing and auto detailing.
I think the O'Reilly Georgetown Tech thing, that's a different animal, that's a different, it's a whole new, that's educational. So I'm confused. So what I don't want to see is William decides to open up car detailing in his driveway, and there's, like you said, 10 cars lined up, and that can't happen. But what's the difference in so-and-so coming to my office on a Tuesday morning and cleaning my car and me calling a power washing company to come to my office to power wash my building?
So the difference with that, and we have had people that do get pressure washing businesses, is that obviously pressure washing will not be able to take place from the home. They'd actually have to go to the site. And that's what you can be 100% sure of, is that pressure washing doesn't involve people bringing their vehicles to you. Of course, staff's concern would be somebody in a public right-of-way or along Laurel Elm Street hooking up to somebody's water and just washing their vehicle, not to mention the Environmental Protection Agency does list standards for such uses and doesn't recommend that the runoff go into the storm drains in the street, because that ends up in your treatment system. So they would recommend that it be on private property, preferably grass, or that it would drain into gravel or something like that. So you would have to ensure that as well. And we would require that it be done on private property, not within rights of ways. But there are cases where I could see it being okay. It just depends on where it's located. But then again, you can't regulate that once you issue the business license. The horse is kind of out the gate at that point. Then you have to rely on, complaints from the public.
Yeah.
But we do have one guy that is kind of in limbo right now, waiting to see if he could, if this is something that he could even do.
What does he want to do?
He is located in a trade shop in an industrial park, and he wants to do auto detailing from that location. But because auto detailing and car wash facilities are kind of clumped together, they're not separated, he can't do it because he doesn't have proper surface drainage facilities. He doesn't have a 100-foot exit drive. He doesn't have a quaying lane for vehicles, what you would see at like Dietrich's Car Wash or
Right.
Tidal Wave. So they're really two different things. A lot of times these people even have waterless car washing. I don't believe this gentleman does. Or they have vans where they have water tanks. But again, you can't really require that once you allow that use. But that particular person is in an industrial park where it's all pavement and in a trade shop area.
And how does this factor in with the business owner who has a van and he's driving around washing and detailing your car, as I've seen several times in in Conway?
So this particular person may have people that just come to him. So
Oh, no,
he's
no, I'm sorry,
located.
the ordinance that we're looking at.
So the mobile auto detailing, that would be somebody who drives around or they come to you. They might call an office somewhere and said, hey, we want to offer our services. We'll come to you and we'll wash your vehicle or vacuum out your vehicle, kind of like windshield replacements, So that's would be the difference. And that could be anywhere. It wouldn't be at one
So do we
set
have any
location.
restrictions on them at this time?
Yeah, we don't have any yet, other than what's listed in the current ordinance, listing those, several requirements.
They're not
but we
allowed right
would-
now.
Yeah, we wouldn't give a mobile detailing
Okay.
license right now.
So the ones that are riding around just haven't been
Riding
caught
dirty.
yet?
Riding dirty.
Absolutely.
Haven't been caught yet, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And see, I got no problem with that. I really don't. I mean, and as far as the environmental stuff, I mean, do we have the expertise to regulate, to know, I mean, that, it seems as though they would be subject to whatever EPA regulations are in place. I mean, whether they do it at my office or your office or the parking lot out here. I mean,
We
how
would
do
regulate as far as they could not do it in a right-of-way. It would have to be on private property. They would
think
need
that's
to
the way
get
to do it.
permission to be on that private property.
I think that's the way to go. That's just my opinion. But no, I would not want my neighbor setting up a car wash business beside me, and because, again, that's R1 or R2 or whatever your residential zoning is, that wouldn't be right.
And just to clarify, so the people that would do that would come to you, for example, and wash vehicles. They are probably based from their home. So they're taking their van home at night or whatever, vehicle they use, and then they're going on site. But they, of course, would be restricted. We would put in their zoning compliance, no vehicles at home. You have to do everything off-site. If they violate that, staff does have the ability to revoke their business license or their zoning approval for their business license. So that's the tricky situation.
So we're considering a mobile business on site in certain circumstances.
Well, what we are proposing to do would be to separate car washing facilities from auto detailing facilities, because auto detailing doesn't really encompass what you would see at, major car washes who is set up to comply with all of the EPA requirements, as well as any city or, county regulations. And the auto detailing would be more mobile. They could do those from a set facility, or they could do those mobile. So they could drive around and do that. And I know that there are places and people that do that now. The county allows it now. I'm sure they come into the city and probably have a county license and not a city license. But right now, we are not issuing any licenses for auto detailing as a home-based business, because those people don't have a commercial location to base that business from. I would recommend that if it is separated, that there be very stringent requirements, because that has always been staff's concern. You do have another option where you could require that even if you're going to allow the detailing, another option would be that it would have to be based from a commercial location, that there be somewhere that they take their van or their vehicle at night. So that is another option that we could look into besides allowing it as a home-based business. But because we understand that auto detailing is a little bit different than an actual car wash facility, I do recommend that it be separated, but you would definitely want to make sure that you are specific in the regulations that you have on that.
Usually, this kind of action is taken when there's a problem presented.
Exactly.
And I don't know that there's a problem.
Well, the problem is the person that's being denied a business license. So when somebody, let's say, you apply for a business license and you're denied, you could appeal that decision to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Now, this person has not done that. And usually, if for any reason staff were to be overturned on their decision, then we would obviously need to change our practices moving forward. So there still is that ability for this person to do that. But we have denied several over the years for the same use. The only difference is this person is operating from a commercial property.
All right, I'm sorry, it's been a long day.
I know, I'm
All
sorry.
right. No, you're doing good, it just hasn't sunk in yet. Okay, so the issue is this guy out in the industrial center wants to have people bring their cars to his property. You've denied it because he's not set up, because it's not set up like a car wash.
Correct. It
Okay.
doesn't meet those requirements.
Okay, but if we separate them, like you're suggesting, then he could consider himself a car detailer.
Yes, we could have different requirements or different standards for auto detailing.
All right,
We
and
could,
then,
yeah.
and then a car detailer would have to either be in commercial or industrial. I mean, you couldn't be a car detailer in a professional or neighborhood commercial or something like that, right?
We
Or
could
R1.
definitely limit it to certain
Or it
zoning
could be a
districts.
home-based, right?
I'm sorry,
Or it
what?
could be home-based also.
That, yes.
That's what I think you don't want, is you don't want your neighbor to set up a car business. And I don't think they could anyway, right? Because it's about the use. I mean, the R1 is for the purposes of them, the use, right? So,
Well, I think the whole base piece is, that's where he keeps his phone and his invoices, and that's where he does his tax paperwork and that sort of thing. He gets the call, but he does the work at an individual's home.
Yes,
That's
and I
what's intended.
apologize if I didn't explain that. Home base really means that's where my office is. That's the address on my business license. I'm not doing work there. In fact, it even states that you can't have anything on site. But that's where my office is based from, and we haven't allowed that in the past. For some reason, we allow tow yards. Towing companies is a home-based business. I think that's kind of been that way for a really long time, which, I don't know, I think that's a little bit more intense of a home-based use, but, that essentially is what we would be saying. We would allow it as a home-based business to base your office only. But they would do everything off-site, just like any other home-based business.
all right, let me muddy the water a little more. You know what I do for a living. What if I took a bedroom in my house and set up my computers and my printer, and I called my clients from my office? Technically, that's not allowed because I'm in R1, and so the only use that you can do with an R1 is to live there, right? I mean, it was the same, this issue came up some years ago before I lived where I live now with the piece of property across from First Baptist Church. They wanted to build some things there, and this council, for years ago, said, no, that's R1. You can't even have Sunday school there, okay, because that would violate the use. Now, if you want to build a parsonage and the preacher lived there, that's permissible, but you can't have Sunday, it's all about the use, right? So, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so a Sunday school would be a little bit different because
Well, of
people are
course it
actually
would, and
coming,
nobody
you know,
objected
but,
to that, but-
oh, yeah, but, yes, but I understand exactly what you're saying. Any use that would require people to come to your home, that's what would not be allowed. But we do have several hundred properties that have home-based businesses from their home, but just for office use. You're limited on the percentage. Only one vehicle associated with the business can be parked on site. No retail sales. There's a whole list of uses. So as long as
That
you can
makes sense.
comply with that, then yes, you could have a home-based business.
That makes sense. You've cleared this up for me. So just, I mean, I'm one of 7, or one of 6 tonight, but where I stand is I don't think your neighbor, for your sake and enjoyment, should be able to wash cars constantly in their driveway for professional use. But if they have their truck there that they drive every day, then they can come to my business or your house or your business or your house and clean your car at your business or house.
Exactly.
I got no problem with that.
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes. Zoning is very complicated.
Yes.
And
Yes,
it's
I
not
think
as
it's a
if
good
that
idea to
doesn't happen
separate
all
the
day,
two.
every day now.
Okay. Thank you.
Too much sun, Tom. Too much sun, Tom.
Thank you, Ms. Hooks.
And that concludes
Now,
workshop.
thank you so much. We'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. Mr. Goldfish.
So moved.
All in favor, say, show your hand. It's unanimous. So, the executive session is to discuss contractual negotiations incidents and potential development of property on Ann Street pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 3470A, and B, a discussion on contractual negotiations incident to the potential development of riverfront property. Also, pursuant to South Carolina Code Section 3470A5. After which time, if any action is to be taken, we will reconvene and take action at that time before adjournment. Do we have to move to do this?
Well, we got a motion.
We already did that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we already did that.
Nobody wants to be riding dirty.
You know,